I'm here today at this small village called Ahalainen, and it's one of the oldest ones in Finland. It's quite a nice church, which you can see here. And this basically will be the backdrop for today's video. So this church is fairly typical of small town Finland. You've got an even older bell tower here. So what I'm going to be talking about today is the shocking census data that was released. Not really going to talk about the ethnic kind of stuff, but today's focus very much on the decline in the number of people who self-identify as Christians. So what I'm going to do is first of all sort of talk about why I think that is the case. So imagine a situation where you're feeding a kid Brussels sprouts, but you're actually telling them that they're eating strawberries. So if you then ask the kid, do you like strawberries? They'll say, no, I don't like strawberries. And I think that that's what's happened with Christianity. It's been taken over and corrupted from within. So, you speak to a lot of people and atheists, and they'll say about Christianity, they'll just say, oh, it's a control system, blah, 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 blah. And what they're doing is that they're confusing Justin Welby. He will be like the Brussels sprout with Jesus Christ. He will be the strawberry, There's absolutely nothing in common between Justin Welby and the Church of England, or the paedophile Catholic Church for that matter, and Jesus Christ in the Bible. So what they've managed to do is to convince people that strawberries are Brussels sprouts, and that's why I think there's been this decline. So the next thing is, well, does this decline matter? Now, obviously, for me as a Christian, of course, I'm going to say it does matter, and I think there's several reasons for that. The first one is that nature abhors a vacuum. So if you've got Christianity in decline, that's going to create space for something else to take its place. And there's various candidates, but I would say, the most important one is, I guess, people worshipping the state as a false god. So there's a section in the Bible where Jesus is criticizing his disciples who are moaning about their security, about where they're going to get money from for buying food and stuff. And Jesus basically says to them, don't worry, God will look after you. You don't need to worry about that. God's got that sorted. If you think about birds, they don't worry about where their food comes from, and God cares about you far more than birds. So I think what's happening today is that many people are relying on the state to look after them, rather than on God. They're putting their faith, I know this sounds crazy, but it's actually true, people are putting their faith in politicians rather than in God, the person that created the world and humans and animals and plants and everything, which is kind of quite amazing. People could be so dumb. And obviously that trust in the state, it's not well placed. Politicians have shown time and time again that they're not on your side. The only side that they're on is what's best for them. And this is an example of a war memorial, pretty typical in Finland, to commemorate the people that died in the Winter War of 1939 and the War of Continuation from 41 to 44. I think the other things that are filling into the vacuum left by the sad decline in Christianity is atheism. So atheists believe that nothing created everything. Life is completely pointless. There's no higher meaning. They tend to be quite nihilistic, in my opinion. Closely linked to that, I think, is materialism. People finding meaning in stuff, owning brand names, ego, status. again, you know, in my opinion, what happens there is that people just get incredibly miserable because there's no deeper meaning to life. I also don't think the divot crisis helped people self-identifying as Christians. So, for example, here in Finland, most churches insisted on people wearing the underpants on their head. No underpants on the head, no entrance, and just one thing on that, you know, Mark, M-A-R-K, you know, as in Mark of the Beast. Mask, M-A-S-K. There's just one letter difference there, isn't there? Replace the S with the R and you go from mask to Mark. Not saying it was or is, but it's quite close, isn't it? So that certainly sort of put me off wanting to go into beautiful places like this that I have no doubt were built by proper God-fearing Christians. The other thing that I would say too is that admittedly it didn't last long. It only, outside of Helsinki, like up here in Pori, I think it lasted no more than a month. They actually had the Nazi passport, and some churches even excluded members of their congregation if they hadn't been to the Britney Spears and the Boosters concerts, which, you know, obviously is just completely unchristian. You know, Jesus hugged lepers. You know, Jesus wasn't advocating social distancing, or that we should have you know, leprosy passports and people be excluded from society. Jesus was the exact opposite. Also, Jesus didn't believe that people should live their lives in fear. So, you know, what I want to ask you guys is, and I've got mixed feelings on it, you know, should we try to recolonize these places as real Bible believing Christians? Because make no mistake about it, churches have been kind of infested with with corruption, basically, and that corruption has been all about feeding people Brussels sprouts and then claiming that they're strawberries, you know, with the specific intention of trying to make strawberries less popular amongst people. So again, I might not be making myself clear here, and I might be waffling a bit, but, you know, maybe it's time for us. I've got a Telegram group, or I belong to several Telegram groups, and somebody wrote to me, a Finn, and said, you know, do you know any good churches? And I basically said, no, I don't. They were all, as far as I know, involved in the nonsense. But maybe we actually need to take these places back and just turn up. Obviously, there's no underpants on the head anymore. But just turn up and recolonize these places. And I'm not sure. You know, obviously, you know, in England they've got people giving sermons on woke rather than on Christianity. It's a difficult one, you know, because in some ways it would be, some ways you think, well, let's not go in. In other ways you think, would it be in order to basically say, to speak to, you know, the person doing the service either after or maybe perhaps even during, and just say, look, this isn't right. Do you see what I'm trying to get at here? Is that, do we need to recolonize these places? Do we need to take them, like, should we try to take them back? Tell me what you think in the comments. Because I think one thing's for certain, more and more of us have come to acknowledge that we are in a battle between good and evil. And we've got to win a spiritual battle. So maybe this is part of winning that spiritual battle. We have to make a public display of where our allegiances lie. You know, away from materialism, Babylon, Strictly Come Dancing, you know, all the nonsense. government, big government, you know, going along with live action role play, let's play doctors and nurses, you know, all of that. Distance ourselves from that. I'm back from the churchyard and I've had a few more thoughts. The first one is the falling away that's occurred in Britain is more pronounced, a lot more pronounced than it is in Finland. So, for example, the summer before last, I remember just noticing this at the local beach in Uttari, the number of Finns who were wearing crucifixes. So this falling away, I'm sure Christianity isn't a minority in Finland. The other thing that I want to say is that I believe that there's definitely going to be consequences for societies that do allow themselves to fall away and become atheist or statist, Marxist, whatever it is. And I know this is from the Old Testament, so this is before Jesus, but I think that there are limits that human behaviour, that bad behaviour that God will allow. So I'll just read you this passage. It's from chapter 1, Proverbs, and it starts verse 20. Wisdom crieth without, she uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the opening of the gates. In the city she uttereth her words, saying, How long, ye simple ones, will ye love simplicity? And the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. So, basically, wisdom tries to speak, but it's drowned out by noise of stupid people doing stupid things. How long, ye simple ones, will ye love simplicity? You know, X Factor. And the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. So again, you know, you can look at what's happened with Divok. You know, people have just not used common sense at all, and for those of us who have, it's been baffling. It carries on to verse 23. Turn you at my reproof. Now that word reproof, it actually means rebuke in a modern way. Behold, I will pour out my spirit onto you. I will make known my words unto you. Because I have called, and ye refused. I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded. But ye have set all naught at all my counsel, and would none of my reproof. So basically, people have turned away from God. They've not listened. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. So yeah, maybe there's a connection between the people that have turned away. Maybe they're the ones that are constantly living in fear. Maybe that's part of their divine punishment to have that fear. I know certainly throughout the Bible, Jesus in particular tells us that we shouldn't be fearful. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you, then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. For that they hated knowledge, and did not choose the fear of the Lord. They would none of my counsel, they despised all my reproof, my rebukes. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way, and be filled with their own devices. You know, that's interesting, isn't it? You know, mobile phones, computers, you could call them devices, couldn't you, in modern language? For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. But whosoever hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from fear of evil. So, let's turn this round. So it's a bit harsh, that, isn't it? But I think the message is pretty clear. Society is heading in the wrong direction. And we need to proclaim our faith and try to win as many people to Jesus Christ as possible before the rapture comes.
Okay, so I hope you've found that useful, and God bless.